Some news near and dear to my heart. This is personal. Krystal, you didn't want to do this segment, but here we go.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Let's put this up there on the screen. My alma mater, the George Washington University, has voted by a vote of 13-1, the University Board of Trustees, to get rid of the colonial mascot after years of concerns about quote-unquote inclusivity of the mascot. The mascot, for those who are just watching, and you can see in front of you, is just George Washington with a GW hat on. Now, listen, I love that mascot. It was one of the only cool things about actually going to the school. Now, look, I know that you don't feel similarly, and I don't particularly have a lot of school pride, but I thought that the Colonials was a cool name. I thought it was one of the only cool things about the school, which generally didn't even have that much school, like, camaraderie or whatever. Like, we didn't have a football team, and it was basically in a downtown. It's kind of like NYU.
Right.
And so to take it away, which we've had for over a century, just drives me insane because it's done for these idiotic, woke reasons. And look, this is actually within a broader context. So in 2019, they said that they wanted to rename buildings of the school for, okay. So I was like, all right, well, like, was there any Confederates or anything? No, this had nothing to do with Confederates. One of them is from James Monroe. The Monroe Doctrine, which was actually great. And I think he's like our 6th president. Okay, he owned slaves. I'm not saying it's a good thing and you should venerate that, but it's like, does that really mean the legacy of that? And the second one was Bill Barr. They wanted to replace a dorm room, which was like the William
bring
P.
him
Barr.
back now that he's a Trump
Yeah, exactly. Now that he's a stop the steal dissenter,
Listen,
they're going away with this.
I just literally cannot imagine caring about this.
Oh, come on. I mean,
cannot imagine caring
so
about this.
if they got rid of Cavaliers,
I would
you
not
would be upset.
give a shit
Okay.
even for a second. Or I started, as a swimmer at Clemson before I turned to
What's
Tigers.
The Bulldogs or what?
Tigers.
Oh, okay, Tigers.
I don't care. In fact, the team that I was most committed to growing up was the Washington, formerly Redskins, and they changed that. Also, do not care.
Right.
Whatsoever.
Okay, I'll tell you why.
But let me also say why I actually really think that they're doing it is because these schools have to compete for top student talent.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's part of their business model.
So it's like woke points.
And so, so if you have a young student body coming in that doesn't want to be associated with being like genocidal colonizers, and that's dampening your recruitment pool, ultimately, this is a business decision. I mean, that's why you see so many corporations leaning into this stuff is because they feel like it's good for their sort of like bottom line. And I think that's where this comes from.
So I read the report, though. They surveyed even these young student body, and over half, more than majority of people said that they didn't want to change the name. It was a small
but then the
minority. It was the
question is,
Black Students Association that claimed that it reminded them of slavery or whatever, which is bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry.
You got to admit that, colonizing has a lot of connotations.
So are we just never supposed to acknowledge the colonies in the United States?
I didn't even want to talk about this because I really don't give a shit either way. It does not matter to me. But what I think probably went into the decision more than anything is the people who do care about it a lot.
That you're probably
the people who are like me and like whatever, like they're not going to not go to the school because of it, or they're like it doesn't factor into their decision whatsoever. So it's like any sort of constituency group. When you have one group that's super animated about it and it's going to change their decision making, then they wield disproportionate power.
Unfortunately, I think you're correct, and I think it also just shows you that as much as the culture may be moving against some of this stuff, it just makes it so that in these elite institutions, I mean, this is just running rampant, and it drives me crazy, obviously, because I went there. But I do think it's like deeply sad, and watching it happen actually does show you too that there isn't a genuine constituency for this stuff, which, this is one of those things where I think you might even be correct in the younger, the people who are even coming in, that they probably majority agree with this stuff. So it's one of those things where it genuinely would help them from a marketing perspective.
So again, I don't care.
Yeah.
The only areas, the problem for me is when this type of symbolic politics serves as a distraction or it's sort of like a woke washing. Mm-hmm. That's when instead of
also care about
changing other things that are more foundational and actually would make a difference for people, there becomes an obsession over like naming shit. Like for example, the San Francisco School Board, where during the time when there was a pandemic and kids were not in the classroom. They spent all this time, you know, debating name changes. There was also written up in this recent article about Chesa Boudin's loss. I don't know if you read this. In the Atlantic, it got a lot of play. But there's this whole anecdote in there about how they spent an hour debating this one guy, gay guy but white, about whether they had too many white people on this parent board. And they spent like an hour, and everybody was like, as a person of color with this and that other intersectionality, I can't, whatever. Like, so they're focusing on that stuff rather than getting kids into school and actually like improving their academic outlook and their life prospects. That's when I have an issue. If it's just like changing a name in a vacuum, I really don't.
Well, I do think it's a good point, though, that you're making, because, you know, tuition there is $58,000 a year. And so you are talking here about a private school, which, you know, I knew a lot of people when I was there who had triple-digit debt that were coming out of it that they didn't even necessarily make up. And, you know, this is one of the easy ways, actually, they can justify extraordinarily high tuition without even necessarily delivering on the promise. And, you know, I do think it is woke washing from that point of view. At the same time, look, it's a private university. I'm not saying they can't do whatever they want, but I genuinely do think that they are moving very much in that direction to try and continue to charge up
market incentives.
Responding to market incentives, and also don't want to, you know, address like affordability or what. I'm pretty sure they crushed a union too while I was there.
I'm sure they did.
It's like
sounds right.
This all fits within a pattern. Anyway, I'm sad to see it go. I think people will see it. I do think, though, people got something out of the segment. So there you go. We'll see you guys later.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.